The Bayern class represented a quantum leap in German battleship design. Previous German battleship designs had been well protected, but suffered from being outgunned and outranged by their primary opponents such as the Royal Navy and the United States Navy. The British had built 3 classes of battleships with a battery of 10 13.5-inch guns for a total of 12 ships, and the Americans had built 2 classes with 14-inch guns for a total of 4 ships, plus 2 previous ships armed with 12-inch guns. By contrast, the previous 3 German classes of battleships had only been armed with 12-inch guns, 2 classes with 8-gun broadsides, and the latest with a 10-gun broadside. Originally, the ships were to have had 12-inch guns as well, only in triple turrets instead of twins, giving them a broadside of 12 guns. However, examination of existing triple turrets convinced the Germans that these designs still had too many problems, and a new armament of 15-inch guns was used instead. As a result, the ships carried 8 15-inch guns in 4 twin turrets with a pair super-firing forward and a similar pair aft. 16 casement-mounted 5.9-inch guns made up a secondary battery, and a pair of 88mm anti-aircraft guns plus 5 torpedo tubes would complete the entire armament. Initially, the main turrets could only elevate to 16 degrees, limiting the gun's range to below that of the British 13.5-inch guns, but this was eventually modified to 20 degrees, allowing a similar maximum range to their opponents. Unlike previous German battleships, the Bayerns were both stable and manoeuvrable and retained the standard German battleship speed of 21 knots. The armour belt was 13.8 inches thick as per previous German battleship classes and tapered toward the front and back in common with almost all battleships of the period. The exception to this was the American Nevada class, which used the so-called all-or-nothing armour scheme, which concentrated all armour over the most important sections but left nothing elsewhere. This table shows the primary statistics for the major battleship designs being built in 1912 and 1913. The ship's machinery ran on a mix of oil and coal, largely as a result of Germany's limited access to oil fuel. The Revenge class also used this system as a cost-saving measure, whilst the Queen Elizabeth and Nevada classes ran entirely on oil. The class was supposed to consist of 4 ships, although the latter pair would have been completed to a slightly different design that would have made them a bit faster and addressed some other issues that had been found. However, due to wartime priorities and Germany's slightly slower shipbuilding industry, only the first pair of ships were completed. The second pair, Sachsen and Württemberg, were still incomplete at the end of the war, along with a number of other German capital ships. The ships that were completed were the Bayern and the Baden. The Bayern was completed just under 2 months too late for it to take part in the Battle of Jutland. Her first action was to take part in a fleet advance in late August 1916 that had the same idea as had been tried previously, to attack a British coastal town with battle cruisers to draw out part of the British fleet and destroy it, which would help balance the odds for another big battle. However, in the aftermath of Jutland, only 2 German battle cruisers were in combat-capable condition after months of repairs, and so Bayern, along with 2 König-class battleships, was sent along with them. The rest of the German fleet would wait in ambush. However, the British realised what was going on and sent in the whole Grand Fleet. With the odds even worse than at Jutland, the Germans promptly retreated. A similar effort in October likewise brought no results. 1917 was not exactly a good year for the ship either, the German fleet deciding to force the Russian Navy out of the Gulf of Riga. Whilst the operation was overall a success, although with multiple dreadnoughts facing 2 pre-dreadnoughts it would have been a bit more strange if it wasn't, the Bayern managed to hit a mine and had to head home for repairs. Later on in the year, there was a new plan. Due to German attacks on convoys in the North Sea using lighter forces, the British were running escort with squadrons of battleships, an ideal target for the entire High Seas Fleet. The newly commissioned Baden also joined in this operation. Unfortunately, due to faulty information, they arrived in the area on the wrong day, and there was no convoy. And then the battlecruiser Moltke had one of its propellers fall off, which meant it then had to radio the main fleet to tell them what had happened. This also meant the Grand Fleet came out once they detected the transmission, and once again the Germans were forced to run for home. Near the end of the war, the German fleet was ordered to sail and engage the British no matter the odds in an attempt to improve Germany's position at the negotiating table. This didn't happen as the sailors were fed up of the war at this point and saw no reason to die pointlessly. Most of the fleet revolted, and first Baden, and then eventually Bayern, would join the rest of the fleet in the mutiny. After the war, the ships were sent as part of the fleet to Scapa Flow, and both were scuttled there on the 21st of June 1919. Whilst Bayern sank deep enough to only be fit for breaking up, the British did manage to board Baden and run her aground. After repairs and a detailed inspection, she was used as a target ship to test new types of shells, before eventually also being sunk in deep water. One of the main findings of these tests was support for the American all-or-nothing armour scheme, which was then adopted on future British battleships. If you have a cold water adapted suit and the appropriate permissions and skills, you can still dive on the wreck.
That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have a comment or suggestion for a ship to review, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to comment on the pinned post for dry dock questions.